Good morning to everyone. My name is Iván Moya, and we are starting now a webinar coming from Charisma Horizon 2020 Fund project. And we're going to talk about a very specific point today, which is the use of standards and standardization to improve the impact of the research and innovation projects. I hope you are hearing me well. And now I'm going to share my screen in order to be able to follow the presentation I'm going to use now. Let's see, 1 second. Okay, now you are supposed to be seeing my presentation. So, welcome. Before starting, just to highlight that this webinar is being recorded, just for you to be aware of it. And another point to remember here at the beginning is that you can use the questions section, which is available in the GoToMeeting panel. At the end of this webinar, we will have some time to comment and to discuss about the questions you may include here. Before starting, just a few institutional words about UNE. UNE is the Spanish Association for Standardization. It's a private entity and the Spanish representative in the international and European standardization fora like ISO, IEC, CEN or CENELEC. So our main activity is the promotion and the development of standards, of technical standards. We're talking about ISO standards, IEC standards, CEN standards, CENELEC standards, and also national standards. This is our main activity, but on the other hand, from almost for more than 10 years now, we have another very important and different activity, which is the promotion of standardization within research and innovation projects. We push to make useful this standardization tool as an additional tool to increase the impact of the research and innovation projects and the results. And here you have some figures about the number of research and innovation projects we have participated, or we are participating at the moment, with this goal of taking the standardization lead and promote the use of standardization as part of the research and innovation activity. So what we will see today, first, we will try to have a common understanding about standardization, what standardization is, what we understand by technical standards. Then why should they be considered in research and innovation projects and also as part of the research and innovation activity. And then we will also see some tips to make it in a good way, to have success in this integration of standardization. Well, we can use standardization word in many different contexts, but here we are going to use this word standardization and standards with a particular meaning, which is the development of standards. What kind of standards? Those that are produced in the standardization system, which is this system composed by ISO, International Standardization Organization, IEC, which is equivalent as ISO but for electrotechnical topics, CEN, which is the European Standardization Committee, and CENELEC, which is the equivalent of CEN for electrotechnical issues. So we are talking about standardization as the development of this kind of standards through a consensus-based process. Is the key characteristic of these documents that are not developed by one specific entity or by one specific association or laboratory or company or whatever. They are open to all interested parties. And this is the great value they have, that they represent the consensus in a specific field, consensus that has been reached with the participation of all the parties that have that wanted to take part in this process. There are kind of words like harmonization, regulation, and certification that can be connected to standardization but are not the same. For example, standardization is commonly mixed with harmonization. Harmonization would be like setting common processes or finding common characteristics of materials or whatever. This is like the research and innovation work. But then standardization is put these findings into standards. Then we have another keyword, which is regulation. Standards are not mandatory, they are voluntary. But despite they are voluntary, they are very important in many cases because they are developed under market demand. So the clients are demanding these standards to the providers. But at origin, they are not mandatory, they are voluntary. Sometimes they become mandatory when the regulators decide to include standards as part of a regulation. In that cases, this standard or this part of the standard is mandatory. And then we have another keyword, which is certification. Certification, which is the conformity assessment, in many cases against standards, is, let's say, one of the uses of standards, maybe one of the main uses, of course, together with the population use, but it is not the same standardization as certification, and sometimes they are not connected. Okay. So now we have seen the context and why should standardization be considered in the research and innovation projects. Well, as said before, there are tools to improve the impact of the project, to improve the compatibility with existing solutions, with existing ways of achieving similar things. And then they, of course, are a tool to facilitate the market acceptance of the results that are developed in the project. So this is the main focus of standardization in research and innovation projects. And now we're going to see some arguments that support the two reasons that I have just shown you. First, I wrote here this standardization, these European standardization policies, which were published last year. The objective of this, initiative from the European Commission is to specifically improve the impact of the research and innovation projects, of the money, of the resources that are put in this research and innovation activity. And here we can see several references to standards as a key tool to maximize the impact of this research and innovation activity. Okay, I'm not going to read it, but I think it's important that we have this reference. It was quite recent, and it specifically makes a reference to standardization regarding to the market uptake, market split, technological advances, and making things interoperable. Here we have a second argument, this European strategy on standardization, which was also published last year. The objective of this strategy was to, or is to, make use of standardization as a tool to support the regulations and policies coming from the European Commission. It's a long relationship between standards and European regulation. We have these harmonized standards that are published in the official journal of the European Commission, which make them mandatory in many different fields. But with this strategy, the European Commission wants to, let's say, strengthen this relationship and this support to the European policies from standards. And here again, we have this reference to the research and innovation activity linked to the use of standards as a way of transferring relevant results to the market. And here we have specific, more close look to the use of standardization here, specifically in the calls from Horizon Europe and Horizon 2020. And here we have, I just put 3 of them here, but there are many of calls that are link the research activity to standardization as a tool to maximize or to boost the impact of the results as additional tool. Okay. And just the last argument of supporting the use of standardization in research and innovation projects. There are much more of them, but I just brought here some of them, focusing on the relevance and that they were published not very far away in time. Here we have the EU Code of Practice on Standardization in the European Research Area, which was published this year. And in this Code of Practice for researchers, here we have again reference to standards commenting that they had to integrate technologies in systems and solutions, and that enable interoperability between components, products, and services. Okay, so this was just some examples and evidences of why standardization is important for research and innovation activity. And now we enter in the second part of this webinar, which is how. Okay, I believe it. You have convinced me, but how can I do that? Okay. At UNE, we see that there are 2 main ways of integrating standardization in the research and innovation project. First, we have a kind of flux of information from the standardization system to the research and innovation project. It is about having a good knowledge of what the standards are there related to my project. And we will have a closer look in the next slide. And the second way of integrating this standardization activity in the research and innovation project is the other way around, moving from the research and innovation project to the standardization system, trying to feed the standardization system with the results coming from the research and innovation project in order to develop these standards, basic research and innovation results, that give this support to the impact of these results. So let's take a look to both approaches. The first one, the objective is to have a good state of the art regarding CEST, CENELEC, ISO, IC standards. It's like a normal, natural thing when you are in research and innovation activity, which is to have a look to what things already exist. And now we're doing the same, but for standards. For standards, can be published standards, but they can be also project standards, which means standards that are being developed at the moment. Maybe you are aware that there are no standards in the specific field of your project, but maybe there are some standards under elaboration, maybe coming from research and innovation project. Then we should also have a look not just to standards, but to the standardization committees in the field to have a control about what activities, what standardization activities in the field can come in the next months or in the next years. There are specific standardization deliverable, which is the workshop agreement, the CEST workshop agreement, or the international agreements, which are a little bit different from the traditional technical standards, but they are very important in the research and innovation world because it is a very convenient way of transferring the results from the research and innovation project to a standard. These workshop agreements are not developed in the traditional standardization committees, so it's a different way, a different place where we have to look for. But as I commented, they are important in the research and innovation activity. And of course, there can be other relevant publication or existing information in the research and innovation, in the standardization system. This information is very important to be used during the working package development. They are background material to be considered in the different working packages. For this reason, this task or this approach should be implemented in the first months of the project. Maybe by month 6, it's important that this analysis is done and shared with the consortium. And the second approach or the second task is the contribution to standardization. Here we have two objectives. Now we're here talking to the second activity we see in the general plan, which is moving from information not from the standardization system to the project, which was the slide before, the previous slide, but moving information from the research and innovation projects to the standardization system, with two main objectives. First, to use the standardization system as a dissemination channel. You have to consider that this standardization system is organized in standardization committees. There are many committees for many different areas, and each of them, the people that integrate each of them are coming from companies or from research and innovation institutes, from universities, also from the public sectors. They are like a good way to talk about the project, talk about the objectives of the project and the intentions, and to also gather maybe some feedback for the coming months or for some tasks of the project. So here we have one of the objectives is to interact with these standardization committees. First, to use them as standardization as a dissemination channel, as commenting, but then also there is an additional point to do this interaction, because what we want at the end of the project is to have some results, some key results of the research and innovation project be part of standards. And to achieve that, it's very important to have a good understanding of these standardization intentions by these standardization committees. They have to give, let's say, green light in some cases to this starting of standardization activities, and in many cases, this standardization activity is performed within the existing standardization committees. Okay. And the second objective of this contribution to standardization is, of course, to do this contribution, to do this transfer of results of the research and innovation project to standards. This is the real, the effective way of contributing to the impact of the project through standardization. Trying to develop a standard based on the results of the project, or to influence existing standards with these results. Okay, so we will have a look specifically to this section, contribution to standardization. Let's again put the focus on what standardization is, the development of standards, and what standardization process or contributions to standardization means for your research and innovation projects. It's a way of transfer the selected results to standards. It's a way of develop new standards based in the project results, or, as commented, influence current standards with the outcome of the project. This is what we should have in mind when we are talking about contribution to standardization. Here is, as commented, the main point of the use of standardization in the research and innovation project, because at the end of the day, if there are any recognized documents supporting the project, which is the idea, it would definitely push the impact of the project. Standards and documents that are supported as recognized documents that are easily used by European players. They are a language they understand and they are used to. Standards are also, if we achieve to build standards based in a research and innovation project, you have to think that it will be there once the project finishes, so it will be available and contributing to the impact of the project once the project ends. It's also a tool to keep on disseminating the information through the standardization system. And of course, standards generate users' confidence. They are also a tool to interpersonalize the results of the project. And of course, we are not talking to doing many additional things in the project. We are talking about benefit from the work that you have done during your project to exploit in an additional way the results you are going to develop anyway in the project. So here's the general idea. On the left part of the slide is like typical activity of a research and innovation project within a consortium. During this project, as key objectives, you will maybe develop or optimize methodologies, protocols, processes, set optimal characteristic of specific material, or whatever. So you will somehow reach to internal standards among the partners of the project. You will define some kind of requirements or terminology or good practices in a way of project standards. So the idea is to take these project standards and make it go through the standardization process within the sensory ISO/IEC standardization system, and at the end of the process to convert these project standards into these global standards and market recognized standards. There are different paths, two different paths to do that. One one of the things that must be done is to analyze the standardization landscape, which was the first approach, to see if this field that we are working on in the project is connected to any existing standardization committee. So if it is the case and the standardization committee shows interest standardization in standardize these results, one way is to go through the standardization committee and develop a traditional European or international standard. Here, the participation is through the national standardization body, like UNE, if your entity is Spanish entity, or DIN if German, or AFNOR if French, whatever. It takes time here to develop a standard, because this work must be included in the work program of the committee. But the result is a solid result, traditional European standard or international standard. But we are talking about research and innovation activity, and in many cases there is not a specific standardization committee in the field, or maybe if there is a standardization committee in the field, is not interested in going in this direction because they have their own work program. So in these cases, we have an additional tool, which is the standardization workshop and the standardization workshop agreement. With this option, the standard is developed in an ad hoc standardization group, which typically is integrated by people from the consortium and also people from outside the consortium. There is a public announcement of the setting of the standardization workshop, and an interested party can join to the workshop. And of course, specific dissemination can be done for specific invitations to people external to the consortium, to companies, to research centers, or to people from other related research and innovation projects. This way is very suitable for research and innovation projects because the standardization process is faster. And at the end of the day, you will have first step, first standard regarding the specific field your project is covering. And here the participation is at entity level directly. It's not necessary to go through the standardization body, to the national standardization body. An entity can apply for participation in any standardization workshop. To make an effective contribution to standardization, you need first that the project has a mature state. I mean, you cannot, it's not common to present a standardization proposal from a research and innovation project in the first stage of this project. Normally, you need, of course, results. You need results that are available, that are produced within the project, and that are solid results that are validated. Then you have to choose what results are going to be moved to the standardization process, what results are going to be transformed in the standards. They should be, for this selection, there are some things to take into account, the relevance of the project, the standardization landscape that is connected to these specific results, and other additional considerations. And then you will select the standardization path, going through a standardization committee or going through a standardization workshop. And it's key, this is why it's key the interaction, the previous interaction with the standardization technical committees, as explained before, because in many cases you will have, it doesn't matter if you go through a standardization committee path or through the workshop standardization path, but you need to interact with them to be sure that this work does not conflict with existing standards, and it will be conveniently supported. Okay, now let's talk a bit about standardization and intellectual property rights, because it may seem that these two terms are conflicting terms, but it is not the case. They are complementary tools in many cases, because the standard addresses some kind of performance criteria, and the connected or the potentially connected patent or intellectual property right it goes in a very deeper detail. As an additional example, if you have a patent with a specific characteristic of a material, let's say, the standard can be addressing the performance that need to be achieved by this material, but you don't talk at all about how to design this material. You talk about what results shall provide. Okay, both concepts are joined together in the EU valorization policies, and these connections between standards and patents are not coming exclusively from research and innovation projects. During many years, there have been standards dealing with patent results or products or processes. So it is not new, and it can be considered perfectly in standardization. And also patents can be included in the standards under certain conditions. Okay, and now let's talk a bit about when to perform these things. This contribution to standardization, as commented before, around month 6, the first part, the standardization landscape should be finished. And from month 6 till the end of the project, it doesn't matter if it's 36 project or 48 month project, all this period should be within all this period, the contribution to standardization should be active, and some work needs to be done here. In the first months, let's say from month 6 to month 12 or to month 9, a good planification should be done regarding considering the standardization landscape performed before, and talking about the different strategies that can be followed to address this contribution to standardization. Then in the next months, maybe from month 12 to month 24, from month 9 to month 18, here it should be working on this interaction with the standardization committees, looking for the ideal standardization technical committees to contact, looking for the contacts, making this communication with a detailed explanation of why we are contacting the standardization committees, providing some general information about the project, participating in standardization committee meetings in order to have a good dissemination of the project within the standardization community, and in order to achieve a good understanding about the project and the standardization activities towards these standardization committees. Then it starts a key point in this process, which is the selection of the projects that are going to be standardized according to the maturity, the relevance of the results, and to the standardization landscape mainly. And then from month 30 to month 48, from month 24 to month 36, here is when ideally the standardization process, the specific standardization process, should be conducted. Here we're talking about the development of the workshop agreement or the development of the standard within the standardization committee. Those are like general approximation to when do what, but I think it works according to our experience. It works quite good. So I am finishing this webinar. I just provide here 4 key messages to close this webinar. First, standardization. You can see standardization as a tool to increase the impact of the results, to benefit from the work you have already done or that you will anyway do in the project. Standards for the project to be supported by standard is a very powerful tool to enter the market and to generate confidence in the users, because standards are common language for many entities in Europe. This is why it is supported and recognized from the European Commission and from research and innovation programs, policies, calls, etc. And the very key point is that you should start including the standardization in the project during the proposal stage. It's much more easy to think about when to do that, under what working package, with what resources. Talking about resources that we haven't talked about it, according to our experience, the resources needed for the standardization activities within research and innovation project represents around 2–3% of the total resources of the project. So it's not a big amount of resources, but the benefit can be really important. Within CEST, the European Standardization System, there is additional information addressing different figures from the research and innovation activity, researches, startup, technological centers, etc. And you can access additional information through the link I highlighted here, Standards plus Innovation. Nothing else from my side in this section. Thank you very much. You have here my contact details if you need additional information. And now I will move to the Q&A section. I will stop sharing my screen. And I'm going to this Q&A section to read if you have some questions. But so far, I don't see any question here. If you have any question, please go ahead. I see that we are around 18, 16 people connected. If it is not the case, if you don't have questions now, but you have after the webinar, you can also alert me through the connection details I just showed you, or through the workshop organizer, and we will be glad to try to help you. So, Jasmine, I think we should close the webinar now.
I guess there is a question in the question panel. Can you check it, Iván?
Okay, yes, now I see it.
Yeah.
I wanted to highlight that EC has provided the EU standardization poster. Yes, it's another very relevant indeed initiative from the European Commission, which is in few words, my understanding, like an initiative that tries to help research and innovation people to specifically achieve this integration of standardization in research and innovation project. There has been put a big effort in providing resources to make this consideration easier. So if you type EU standardization poster, you could reach these resources that is there for you in order to make a smooth integration of standardization if it is the first time you go through this intention. If once, I would say, like a personal opinion, once you integrate standardization in one research and innovation project, you will find that it is not difficult at all, and for the next projects will be something somehow automatic, because when you are drafting the proposal, you don't need to put very much detail in what results you can standardize. You can draft it in an open way and with not much effort. So I also encourage to use this EU standardization poster in order to have this minimal, let's say, background or understanding about this. I'm going to have a quick the Boosted Links project, the standardization expert, and is funded by European Commission. Good. And they also have a training academy, providing also training material. Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Nicholas. Okay, so I hope it has provided you with some general idea of at least to have a good overview about how standardization can support research and innovation projects. It was a pleasure for me, and looking forward to see you again.